Before breaking up, my girlfriend and I had one last wild night, just as she was packing her things to leave. I was about to ask her to stay, but the words that came out were about her wedding day. Remember to send me a picture of you in your wedding dress? After hearing that, she covered her mouth, laughed, and said, "We're not the type to break up and still be friends. It's best if we don't contact each other anymore." I lowered my head, looking at the cigarette about to burn out in my hand. After a moment, I finally replied, "I just want to see what you look like in a wedding dress, to see if it's the same as I imagined." My girlfriend was silent for a moment, then said, "I'm leaving. Take care of yourself from now on." After saying that, she pulled her suitcase and left. I stood on the 19th floor as if separated from the world, helplessly watching her back as she stood in the rain waiting for a car. The moment she got into the car, I knew that perhaps for the rest of my life, we would never see each other again. In a bar, I sat by the window. My close friend Wang Lei sat across from me, after helping me light a cigarette. She smiled and said to me, "Don't you feel that you're much happier than most heartbroken people? At least you have a friend from your hometown like me willing to be with you." I glanced at Wang Lei. She was wearing heavy makeup, wearing black stockings and a sexy short skirt. She once told me she didn't want to dress like that, but it was a requirement for her job. And in this unfamiliar city, I was probably the only one who knew her full name. Her colleagues and clients all called her Lei Lei. We both came here from a small city. I chose a stable job, while she chose to be a bar hostess. Actually, I didn't like her profession. I also advised her to find a respectable job, but she always said she was used to living like this, because life had never given her a chance to choose. That's right, she was a woman whose life wasn't easy. Her parents died in the '08 earthquake, making her a sudden orphan at the age of 16. After a moment of silence, Wang Lei leaned in close and said to me, "I heard something really interesting. Last night at work, some guys who were making a film about Ins and Dali came by. They told me a lot of stories about Dali. They said there's a special group of men there, free-spirited but also very scummy. They ride motorcycles every day, hanging around the old town and by Erhai Lake. But there are girls who willingly follow them, riding on their beat-up motorcycles. If we were in our city, if you don't have a house or a car, who would even want to date you?" After saying that, Wang Lei laughed out loud. Suddenly she lowered her voice and said to me, "But I really want to go there and see. They said Erhai Lake is beautiful. There are seagulls too." At this point, Wang Lei stared at me. Then she said impulsively, "Why don't you go to Dali and open an inn? Look at you, you're here for a month, and your salary is only 6 or 7,000 yuan. I feel hopeless just looking at you. It's really not as good as going there to try out that life. What if it's as wonderful as they say?" She drifted into a dreamy state. While I was silent, she continued to urge me, "Go on, go. I heard you can make a lot of money opening an inn there. Once you're settled, you can bring me over. The two of us together." Hearing this, I interrupted her. "Stop dreaming. If I had the money to open an inn, I'd rather make a down payment on a house in this city, even if it's just a one-bedroom, one-living-room place." "You don't have it, but I do," Wang Lei said, as she actually took out from her handbag a bank card and held it out in front of me. "There's 190,000 in the card. That should be enough to open an inn, right?" But I didn't take it. Instead, I lit another cigarette. Wang Lei pushed the card into my hand, saying, "Besides the woman who left you, this city has nothing else for you. Go to Dali. Even if the inn loses money, don't be afraid. I can make money here. I'll support you." In the end, I took the card from Wang Lei's hand, so as not to hurt her enthusiasm. I promised her I would think it over carefully. About going to Dali, I originally planned to return the card to her after some time, but just 3 days later, I heard some terrible news. Wang Lei, because she refused to go with a client, got into a conflict with the customer. In the chaos, a wine bottle hit her on the head. She had stopped breathing on the way to the hospital. It was much later that I found out that 190,000 turned out to be her entire savings from all these years. The money she earned before that, she had used to donate to build a school in the county. The students there were just like her, orphans who lost their parents in the earthquake. 24 hours later, the person who accidentally killed Wang Lei was arrested, and I, as someone in this city, who was the only one with a connection to Wang Lei, received her belongings. She didn't have many things. The usable cosmetics were given to her sisters as mementos. I only took the tablet and a notebook she used for writing. Her biggest expense while she was alive was the 190,000 she gave me. After this expense, she wrote a passage. Before May 12, 2008. I had a happy family. My father was a construction contractor. My mother just needed to take care of her husband and children. Our family never lacked for money. I was a princess in everyone's eyes. After May 12th, everything changed. The only thing that didn't change was that I was still a princess in others' eyes. But this time, it went from admiration to contempt. During sleepless nights, I often wonder, if it weren't for the '08 earthquake, what kind of life would I be living now? I don't dare to hope to go back to how it was. I just want to change myself. Perhaps because I've been in this city of extravagance and debauchery for too long. I no longer believe in love. I don't dare to believe there's still a group of people who can live so freely in Dali. But this time, I was truly moved. I also hope for a love like that. I hope for a man who loves me and whom I love, who can take me on his motorcycle. Wasting time by Erhai Lake, at the foot of Kang Mountain. If we could open an inn together in Dali, wouldn't this life have been worth living? The moment I finished reading this passage, I wept silently. My mind was filled with Wang Li's short and unfortunate life, and her unfinished dream. I want to escape from everything that binds me. I'll just pretend that Wang Lei and I died together in this city, and then choose a place to be reborn. On the day I quit my job, I took the trouble to search online for the song I heard at the bar that day. Its melody and lyrics had formed my final impression of Wang Lei, because that bar was the last place I saw Wang Lei alive. I finally found out it was a song by Wang Feng, titled Goodbye 20th Century. I don't need to understand deeply what he was trying to express, because I was already in that situation, and I also had to say goodbye to this city. Putting on my headphones, turning the volume to the maximum, I played this song on repeat. I took taxis, buses, and subways, trying to see every nook and cranny of this city. Finally stopping at the world-famous Bund 2, the Huangpu River was right at my feet. Before me were all sorts of people, and the endless stream of traffic. Putting out the cigarette in my hand, I took the tablet and the notebook that Wang Lei left behind out of my backpack. The tablet was filled with her selfies, representing her beauty. The notebook was filled with trivial things. It was her life. I thought it through. I can leave everything behind in this city, but I must bring the beauty and life of Wang Lei to Dali. Although she's gone, her dream is still there. Taking a car to the train station. My next stop is Kunming. Just as I was habitually preparing to go through the ticket gate, my old superior, Huang Heping, called me. I thought there was some work I hadn't handed over. I answered the phone doubtfully. Director Huang, what's up? Are you on the train yet? About to have my ticket checked. Don't get your ticket checked just yet. I have a friend's daughter. She insists on driving to Dali by herself. She's had an irreconcilable fight with her family. You tell me. It's a journey of several thousand kilometers. How can we be at ease letting her drive alone? It just so happens you're also going to Dali. If someone looks after her on the way, definitely don't let her drive when she's tired. Oh, do you know how to drive? I have a license. Then you two can take turns driving. I'll be much more relieved. The girl is in the train station's parking lot right now. Hurry over and find her. Your train ticket and living expenses. They'll reimburse you for them on the way. At this point, I thought for a moment and replied, driving there is fine. What's her license plate number? The last 2 digits of the license plate are 99. It's a white Land Cruiser. After hanging up on Huang Heping, I put the train ticket back in my wallet. Then I pulled my suitcase towards the parking lot outside the station, arriving at the parking lot. After locating the white Land Cruiser, I entered the lot through a side entrance. I knocked on the car window. She opened the car door very formally. Then she looked me up and down and asked, "Are you the uncle me that Uncle Huang mentioned?" "Your Uncle Huang and I are not of the same generation," I said as I signaled for her to open the trunk. But she took off her sunglasses, then leaned back, in an extremely awkward posture to peek at me, who was well covered by the brim of my hat. "1 generation older than Uncle Huang. So you're Grandpa me?" I took off my hat and wiped the sweat from my face. Then I looked at her too. She had her hair in a top knot. She was about 170 centimeters tall. Her skin was so good it looked like you could squeeze collagen out of it at any moment. And the youthful vitality she exuded was like an unknown world. After she had laughed enough, she said to me again, "I know the 3,000 kilometers ahead will definitely not be an easy journey, but as long as we can uphold the principle of respecting the old and loving the young, I believe we can still have a pleasant trip." I smiled, ignoring her teasing. I looked at her car and changed the subject, saying, "Nice car, very suitable for mountain roads." She was a little smug. Of course this giant was. A 20th birthday gift from my dad. I nodded and understood a bit more about this girl, who was just over 20, because the choice of a car can more or less reveal a person's character. Behind her choice of a niche car must be a wild and free young heart. "Grandpa, can we go now?" I didn't answer her. I just threw my backpack into the trunk. Then, ignoring the harsh sun, I opened the passenger door. And this 3,000-kilometer journey began from here, not long after leaving the city. Lao Huang quickly reimbursed me for the train ticket. Chukip Tralaichatoy. He also added another 6,000 as the living allowance he had promised earlier, but I only accepted the money for the train ticket, because even with living expenses, I wouldn't use up 6,000. My spending level isn't high. I messaged him back. "You don't need to give me money for living expenses. The car needs gas to pay tolls and such. You should give this money to Cici." Hearing that, I instinctively looked to my side. Only then did I know her name was Cici. But then Lao Huang sent another message. "You must keep a close eye on her. Be especially careful about safety on the road. Make sure nothing goes wrong." I smelled something fishy, but I wasn't in the mood to ask too many questions. I accepted the 6,000 yuan, then said to her as she was driving, "Your Uncle Huang just transferred 6,000 yuan to me. He said it's for tolls and gas, but we definitely won't use that much getting to Dali. He'll transfer whatever is left to you." "What? I don't need his money." Seeing her indifferent expression, I felt quite helpless, but I had fulfilled my duty of informing her. The next second, I chose to be silent. Then I focused my attention on the scenery flashing by outside the car window. About half an hour later, Lao Huang sent another message. "Mekao, help me ask Cici. How long does she plan to be away this time? Wouldn't it be more appropriate for you guys to ask her yourselves? This kid is very willful. If we talk to her directly, she'll feel like we're controlling her, and she won't tell us the truth." I finally couldn't help but ask. "She's not your illegitimate daughter, is she?" "You brat, Cici is my future daughter-in-law." "Then that's not right. Where's your son?" Why isn't he going to Dali with her? He's studying abroad. He has another year of studies before he can return to Shanghai. As soon as Lao Huang said that, I immediately felt the need to keep a respectful distance. And subconsciously leaned closer to the car door. Only then did I start replying to the message. It used to be all about hunting for sugar daddies. Now the tables have turned. Is latching onto a rich girl the new trend? A good match. A good match. Give me a break, uncle. Looking at the WeChat chat, I smiled, silently despising Lao Huang. Having worked together for 3 years, I thought I understood him pretty well. He's an old fox who can skillfully hide his cunning, but he's really lacking a bit in talent. So after all this time, he's still just a department manager in the company. I turned down the volume in the car a little, and finally spoke up to ask Cece. Taking a plane is quite convenient. Why do you insist on driving to Dali? You'll need a way to get around when I'm there. Are you planning to stay there long term? Yes, I have a friend who opened a bar there. I really yearn for a free life like theirs. After thinking for a moment, she added, it might also be because I really dislike my current lifestyle. You have no idea how annoying the people around me are. My parents are the worst. They keep forcing me to study abroad. I mean, I only have a few decades in my life. I can't spend it all on self-improvement without enjoying it a little. But your Uncle Huang and your parents all think you are just on a road trip and they're all waiting for you to come back soon. Do you know that? Do you know what a stalling tactic is? Once I'm on my own in Dali, in that vibrant city, they can forget about telling me about studying abroad. They can talk after they find me. Hey, uncle, what about you? What are you going to Dali for? Hearing that, my emotions immediately fluctuated wildly. I really wanted to light a cigarette right then. And in this irrepressible craving, I saw again how different our lives were, even though we were both heading to Dali. Seeing that I said nothing, Cece spoke again. It must be a tragic story, huh? I had no desire to confide in her. I just replied, there's a service station up ahead. I'm getting out for a smoke. Cece glanced at me. You're so boring, uncle. Actually, you're not much older than me. But why did I call you uncle as soon as I met you? Because I really can't stand your mental age. It's like some old man with one foot in the grave. Just let me get out for a cigarette. As for whether I'm an uncle or a grandpa, you can call me whatever you want. I'm not letting this smoke addict have his cigarette, she said, stepping on the gas, immediately overtaking the Z4 that had been in front of us. The service station sign also grew smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror, and just like that, my craving lost to her whim. After passing Hangzhou, she finally stopped at a service station because she had to use the restroom, and I finally had the chance to sit under an umbrella outside the convenience store and light a cigarette. Not long after, she came out, carrying a pile of snacks. She put the car keys in my hand and said, "You're driving next, uncle? I want to eat." I looked at the bag of snacks she was holding and asked, "Did you bring all this stuff out of the restroom?" She playfully slapped me. "You're so disgusting. Can't you let a person eat in peace?" I finally smiled at her, then took a long drag from my cigarette, and she sat down next to me and asked, "Uncle, can we get to Wuhan today? We're not passing through Wuhan. Can we take a detour and have some fun? It'll treat you to duck necks. If we go to Wuhan, we'll have to drive an extra 300 kilometers. I'm not in a hurry. You don't seem to be in a hurry either. Let me tell you, Wuhan is really fun. Besides, I have a college friend there. My friend's family owns a restaurant. They can make all kinds of delicious food without waiting for my consent." She tossed the pile of snacks to me and pulled me back to the car and forced me to set the destination on the GPS to Wuhan. Of course, I couldn't argue with such a willful girl, so I gave up my hurried mood and treated this unnecessary detour as a trip. The car sped along the highway at 120 km/h. Cece reclined the passenger seat all the way back and crossed her long legs on the center console. Extremely comfortable. She was popping potato chips into her mouth while sending voice messages to someone unknown. "Uncle, I've already asked my friend to arrange it. What do you want to eat? Do they have mengpo soup?" Cece's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you really planning to rest in peace underground?" Everyone has things they want to forget. Right now, I really want to forget how you tricked me into coming to Wuhan. In my eyes, there is only Kang Mountain and her high lake of Dali. Are you saying you regret hitching a ride with me? A little bit, yes. Don't be so quick to regret it. Life is full of surprises. Who knows, maybe you won't want to leave after you get to Wuhan. The first day's journey went very smoothly. The two of us, at 8 o'clock, entered downtown Wuhan via the viaduct. I parked the car at the entrance of a budget hotel, then put the car keys in her hand and said, "Go hang out with your friend. Don't stay out too late. We're leaving at 8 a.m. sharp tomorrow morning. Didn't I say I'd treat you to duck necks? Besides, my friend has already arranged everything. Your college friend's reminiscing. Why would I tag along and be a third wheel? It's enough for you to have fun. Hey, do you have to be such a killjoy?" While she was showing her dissatisfaction, I had already gotten out of the car and taken from the trunk my backpack, which only contained toiletries. Then I went back to the driver's side window, held my phone in front of her and said, "Let's add each other's contact info. It'll be easier to communicate," she muttered, while scanning the QR code and said to me, "My name is Yang Cece. You can also note it down as Yang Yang. All my friends call me that. What about you? Is your name really Mikayo? I don't think I've ever met anyone with the surname Me. Do I need to with a... Is this little girl using a fake name again? All right, it'll save you as old man me for now. Wait until the day you start acting like someone your age, and I'll call you Mikayo." After Yangtze drove away, I went to a hotel and rented a room, then just walked aimlessly along the bank of the Yangtze River. After walking for about an hour, I finally stopped at a part of the river with the fewest boats. I leaned against the bridge railing, feeling the breeze blowing from the river's surface, indifferent to the prosperity of this city. I took a cigarette from the pack and lit it. A sense of unease suddenly welled up inside me, because I thought of my parents back in Sichuan. I didn't know how to tell them that my ex-girlfriend Lu Jia and I had gone our separate ways. Moreover, I had left that city as a failure. Amidst the sound of passing ship horns, I gently took out the bank card that Wang Lei had left behind. This seemed to have become my last pillar of support. Finally, I pulled my phone out of my pocket, wanting to tell my family the truth about what had happened recently. I didn't want to bring such a heavy psychological burden to Dali. This wasn't the way to start a peaceful and stable life. Just as I placed my finger on the call button, preparing to make the call, WeChat suddenly popped up with a voice call invitation. It was from that kid, Yang Cici. The sound of the call invitation mixed with the wind, ringing in my ears. I was like a deflated balloon, no longer having the courage to explain the situation to my family. I even felt scared. If I had really made that call, I'm afraid I would now be facing the endless guilt and disappointment of my parents. I should be more cautious about this, unless I absolutely have to, because they have placed on me so many hopes. I was already miserable enough. How could I let them suffer with me? I subconsciously touched my collar, and amidst the sound of passing ship horns, I finally accepted Yang Cice's call. "What's up?" Yang Cice's voice was full of anxiety. "Uncle, I can't find my documents. The hotel won't let me check in. What should I do? A driver's license would also work. I can't find my driver's license either. I guess my parents pulled a trick on me. They never wanted me to go to Dali in the first place. Why didn't you check before you left?" Yang Cice's voice was choked with emotion. How could I have thought they'd use such a dirty trick? "Uncle, quickly think of a way to help me." The wind rippled across the river's surface, and the lights bobbed along with the waves. Behind this dreamlike scenery, I seemed to see two completely opposite cities. I lit a cigarette and finally spoke, asking Yang Cici, "Which hotel are you at?" "I'll use my ID to get a room for you first, Jiangwan International Hotel. Then wait for me in the lobby. I'll take a cab over right away." After ending the call with Yang Cici, I immediately hailed a nearby taxi. On the way, I thought again of old Huang and the things he said to me today. I understood his intentions. No wonder he was so at ease letting me go with Yang Cici, because he already knew that Yang Cici couldn't get far. Might as well play the good guy, letting Yang Cici think that he was on her side, to gain her trust and goodwill. Later, it would be convenient for his son, who's abroad, to be in her good graces. Thinking about it, this is the complex world of adults. After a half-hour drive, we finally arrived at the Grand Hotel Yang Cici mentioned. This hotel was truly magnificent. Not only was it built along the river, but its overall architecture was also very imposing, definitely up to 5-star standards. I walked into the lobby. Yang Cici looked dejected, sitting on a sofa near the front desk. Seeing me approach, she quickly stood up to greet me, and then complained to me at length without mentioning booking a room. I reminded her, "Hold on a second. Besides your documents being confiscated, check if your cards have been frozen." Yang Cici was stunned, then hurriedly took her phone out of her pocket. Afterwards, her face turned pale. Finally, she said angrily, "Are they trying to drive me into a corner?" "Not quite driving you into a corner. I think they just want you to back down when faced with difficulties. They want you to realize that at this stage you still can't be financially independent. Don't they know I'm in my rebellious phase? They want me to go back? Fat chance. I'm calling them right now." I smiled and sat down on the sofa she had just been sitting on, waiting for the outcome of her conversation with her parents. The result was pretty much what I expected. Before she could say more than a few words, Yang Cici lost her temper, crying while spewing harsh words to the person on the other end. But it seemed to have no effect. After about 10 minutes, she finally hung up in frustration. Then she stood in front of me and said, "Uncle, help me book a room. I'm going to fight them to the end, because Dali is a place I must go to. If I give in this time, for the next few years, I won't be able to live the life I want." After hearing this, I stood up and said to her, "Old Huang gave me a total of 6,000 yuan for booking rooms. I'll transfer the rest of the money to you in a bit. How you use it is up to you. I think it's definitely enough for you to get home." "What do you mean by that? Are you trying to kick me when I'm down? Abandoning your teammate?" Yang Cice's voice was very loud, quickly attracting curious glances. But I didn't feel any pressure from this at all, and remained calm. "Then you tell me, you not only have no documents, but you also have no money. How are you going to get to Dali? Don't you still have the 6,000 from Uncle Huang? I remember when I told you about this money during the day, you seemed very disdainful. Well, when you're in a subordinate position, you have to bow your head. I'll take this money to tide me over for now, and I'll pay him back later. It's fine if you think that way. But I also have to remind you, the hotel you're planning to stay at now, the cheapest standard room is 1,500 yuan. According to your spending habits, you won't even make it to Hunan before you have to obediently turn back." Petty feelings of dissatisfaction seemed to be written all over Yang Cice's face. She glared at me and replied, "Shouldn't you be advising me to persevere right now? You're also someone who wants to go to Dali. If you had to give up halfway so shamefully, would you be willing? Probably not. but I'm even less willing to bring a burden along. Think about it yourself. You don't have any documents. How much trouble will that be for the whole journey? You're not just old, you're also a bastard. The more young Cece cursed, the angrier she got, and she suddenly took out a bag of something from the handbag she was carrying and threw it hard at me. And to think I was even thinking of you, I even went out of my way to buy you duck necks on the way back. Look at you, spouting nonsense when I'm in trouble. No wonder they say pitiful people must have a detestable side. First of all, you have no sense of honor. You're not like a man. I wouldn't be caught dead traveling with someone like you. At this moment, I witnessed the temper of a rich young lady. Just as I was about to speak, she pulled her suitcase and turned to leave. This was also in line with her personality. I just didn't expect us to part ways so quickly. But I did it with good intentions because she's at the most malleable age and has the financial means to study abroad, so what reason is there not to choose to improve herself? People, no matter how much money their family has, should still move forward. After young Cece left in a rage, I picked up the scattered pieces of duck neck from the floor, feeling a bit unhappy inside. But after learning how much her parents opposed her going to Dali, it wasn't convenient for me to take her any further. I transferred the money old Huang gave me to her, but she didn't respond. She must be driving. Before long, I received another message from old Huang. Why aren't you replying to my messages? Where are you two now? Wuhan. But I guess she'll have to go back to Shanghai tomorrow. Isn't going back to Shanghai what you want? You still don't get my meaning. If you have something to say, just say it straight. If I were as cunning as you, I would have been your boss. What I mean is, you just take the kids safely to Dali. Then I'll go to Dali to find her. Once she's had a taste of hardship, suffered enough, she won't be so stubborn anymore. It'll be easier for me to persuade her. Hearing that, I sneered. By then, not only will she thank you for being the chivalrous one throughout the journey, but her parents will also have to thank you. In the end, you get to be the good guy. But is there any glory in scheming against a young girl like that? Mikayo, the hearts of parents in this world are truly pitiful. Wait until you become a parent, you'll understand. For some reason, these words from old Huang made me think of myself. When Lu Jia and I hadn't broken up, my parents wouldn't bear to eat anything delicious they had. They'd send most of it to me and Lu Jia. Besides showing they cared, it was also a way to nurture our relationship. Old Huang's purpose was similar to theirs. It just felt a bit unorthodox. I kindly reminded him, be careful that in the end, your plan backfires and you lose everything. I feel that girl's personality isn't easy to grasp. Man proposes, God disposes. I shook my head and smiled, then closed the WeChat dialog box and then opened my phone to search for flight information to Kunming for tomorrow. The reason I wanted to switch to a plane was because I didn't want to waste time on the road. Unlike young Cece, she was going to Dali for fun, while I was going there to live. I finally chose the 7:45 a.m. flight. Returning to the budget hotel, I took a hot shower and then lay down on the bed, forcing myself to fall asleep quickly. But the more I tried, the less I could sleep. I kept thinking about those who have passed away. I don't know what state they are in now, in what form they exist, whether they are doing well or not. After drifting for a while, the phone on my pillow chimed again, with a message notification. I picked it up to look. It was from young Cece again. But this time, it was full of hostility. Everyone around me coaxes and pampers me. Why is it that the first time I travel far from home, I run into a scumbag like you? Let me tell you, I hate the feeling of being abandoned. You made me feel so desperate, then you become desperate too easily. Yes, I have a glass heart. This is Wuhan. I'm in an unfamiliar place. You watched me leave without saying a word. Are you really not afraid something might happen to me? With me here, what could possibly happen? That's my friend, not my protective talisman. Now I'm giving you half an hour. Hurry up and come to the Riverside Park to apologize to me. Otherwise, you'll bear the consequences. Young Cesa's childish temper made me not know whether to laugh or cry. I checked the time. It was already 12:30 at night. If she couldn't find a place to stay, being alone in the Riverside Park would not only be miserable, but also genuinely unsafe. I, a man almost 30 years old, didn't need to get angry with her. Right after, I got dressed and took a cab to the Riverside Park. After arriving, I sent my location to young Cece. She accepted it immediately. I looked at the route. We were only about 200 or 300 meters apart. I have to say, she's got some real guts, because at this hour, there was no one else around. The trees and small paths in the park created a gloomy atmosphere. After walking around for a bit, I finally saw young Cece leaning against the railing. At that moment, she looked like she was on the verge of death. I stood beside her and said, I thought you went to stay at a friend's house. I don't want to hear your explanation. You apologize first. Where was I wrong? We're travel buddies. On the very first day, you sold out your teammate. So cruel and unjust. I was just hitching a ride. Shanghai is so big, why didn't you hitch a ride with someone else? The fact that you could take my car to a place so far away proves that we are fated to meet. So you're not just cruel and unjust, you're also trampling on fate. Your crime is a great one. Hearing that, I smiled. How about I find you a place to stay first, as an apology to you? Is that okay? That's more like it. Then let me ask you again, are you taking me to Dali or not? You don't have any documents now. Not to mention whether you can drive. Staying at hotels is already a huge hassle. I can't take you. I've already booked a flight to Kunming for tomorrow morning. Yang Cici looked at me, trembling with anger, then cursed. You beast, do you have to be so heartless? I chuckled and said, it's not me being heartless. Right now, you're the one taking advantage of me. Let's assume if you had all your documents now after we argued, would you still look for me? So the apology you want right now is just an excuse no matter how you look at it. Then you tell me, what else can I do now? I just want to go to Dali. I thought my parents couldn't stand my rebellion and had compromised. I was so happy the whole way. But then they used this dirty trick. If I go back now, I probably won't ever be able to live as myself in front of them for the rest of my life. So Dali isn't actually the place you really want to go. It's just a way for you to rebel against your parents. But is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. Everyone should have their own ego. Besides, Dali is the place I want to go. I traveled there a few years ago, so I know what kind of place it is. I like Kangshan Mountain. I like Erhai Lake. I like chatting with a group of genuine people in a bar, singing and drinking. The more young Cici spoke, the more agitated she became, while I just calmly replied, you're only thinking about having fun, not about the fact that even in Dali, food, clothing, lodging, and transportation all cost money. It's fine to be a bit of a dreamer at your age, but you no longer have the capital to dream, because your parents don't support you at all. So where will you get the financial resources to realize your ego? Yang Cici was rendered speechless by my words, while I lit a cigarette, calmly looking at Yang Cici, who treated everything like a joke but couldn't refute me at this moment. Finally, she spoke to me. You don't need to say so much to me. I'll just go back to Shanghai, all right? Fine. Then I'll book a room for you now. Is it still that international hotel with the river view from before? I'll stay wherever you stay. My place is a budget hotel. The amenities are very low grade. I never wanted to distinguish between high and low class with you. From the beginning to the end, it was you who deliberately distanced yourself from me. At night, Yang Cici stayed in the room next to mine. It helped me see her in a new light. She really wasn't like the girls in the city who put on a petty bourgeois appearance and insistently emphasized the quality of life. But that doesn't mean that after losing her financial resources, she could still continue to have fun in Dali. It was late at night and a strong wind rose outside the window with endless claps of thunder. Then a heavy rain washed over this unfamiliar city of Wuhan, and I too lost sleep in that clamor. About Dali, I had also heard some things. It said that every out-of-towner determined to stay there carries a story within them. I don't know if I can be considered a man with a story, but I am definitely bringing the loneliness from the big city to that place. There, I will remember Wang Lei, and I will also remember Lu Jia, my ex-girlfriend who left me to pursue a better life. I unlocked my phone and looked through all the photos inside. A part of me grew more expectant of Dali, because behind these photos was my disgust for the big city. At this moment, I don't know where Lu Jia is, but I still want to talk to her. So I sent another message to the phone number that she had already canceled. After you left Shanghai, I've been thinking, what did you ultimately take with you, and what did you leave for me? Actually, I understand very well that thinking like this is meaningless, because the answer lies with you. Oh, since you left, I've also left Shanghai. I hope the new city will bring a different life. I also hope everything goes well for you. After sending this message, the rain outside the window also stopped. Only then did I feel sleepy, and a moment later, I fell into a dream. But the quality of sleep wasn't good. I had many dreams about the past. The next day, I woke up at 5:30, but when I was preparing to check out, Yang Cici was already sitting on the sofa in the lobby, but she didn't greet me. She sullenly walked over to my side and handed me her room card as well. Why don't you sleep a little longer? I'll take you to the airport. You may be unjust, but I can't be disloyal. I can take a cab myself. It's not far from the airport. Don't say so much. Hurry up and check out. As Yang Cici spoke, she handed the 2 room cards in my hand to the service staff. After the staff swiped the cards, he frowned and said, these 2 rooms were opened with one ID. One of the rooms hasn't sent its registration information to the security system. I quickly explained, I forgot to bring my ID. Last night I already explained the situation to your manager. Everything is connected to the Public Security Bureau now. If a case like yours is discovered, our hotel will be heavily fined. Although management has been a bit lax recently, but it's best if you take her to the nearest place to get a household registration certificate. It will be more convenient for you when staying at other hotels in the future. Thanks. Then I said to Yang Cici again, see? Even though I have my documents, they're not your protective talisman. Now even staying in a hotel requires a certificate. Don't you find it troublesome? Not troublesome. I like this feeling of wandering the world. But don't worry, uncle. I won't cling to you anymore. After I take you to the airport, I'll go back to Shanghai. At 6 a.m., Yang Cici drove her Land Cruiser, weaving through big and small roads under the sun. But as time passed, I increasingly felt that something was not right. I hurriedly took out my phone, set the navigation to the airport, and discovered we were more than 30 kilometers away from it. Yang Cici gave me a triumphant smile and said, Uncle, lift your head and look at the sign up ahead. Hearing this, I put down my phone and looked out the window. The sign clearly read, Hangrui Expressway entrance in 500 meters. In my panic, I blurted out a curse. How could I have been so gullible? Yang Cici, this reckless second-generation rich kid, you've wasted not just time, but also a plane ticket worth over 1,000 yuan. Uncle, don't you think life is full of surprises? I told you a long time ago, I'm a woman so stubborn that even I scare myself. You're not getting off this Land Cruiser of mine. I am definitely going to Dali. Let's switch when we get on the highway, you can drive. Yesterday, to follow you, I didn't get a good night's sleep. Damn it, what on earth do you find so attractive about me? This is the worst luck of my life. Don't flatter yourself. I'm just short of a driver and an ATM to get to Dali. Once we get to Dali, we can go our separate ways and never see each other again. She left me speechless, and in the next moment, the car reached the entrance to the toll station. Yang Cici grabbed the ticket at top speed, then stopped the car in the temporary parking area on the highway. She smugly waved the toll ticket in her hand and said to me, "Humph, humph. As long as the spirit doesn't falter, there are always more solutions than problems. It's your attitude of pushing people 1,000 miles away that makes me even more determined to go to Dali. I won't give up halfway, just to let you all laugh at me. Haha, no wonder they say travel is life's best teacher. I figured it out, you know. As long as I get a confirmation letter, I can stay in a hotel even without my ID." By now, the sun was getting brighter. Yang Cici, acting very thoughtfully, handed me a pair of sunglasses, then opened the driver's side door, making a gesture to invite me. I looked at my watch. It was almost 7 o'clock. Even if I were riding on wind and fire wheels, I wouldn't make the flight I'd booked. It seems I was not only tricked by Lao Huang, but also by this brat, Yang Cici. In this respect, they're truly a perfect match for a family. I reluctantly took the sunglasses from her. She then said to me, "Uncle, I've checked the GPS. We should be able to reach Fenghuang Ancient Town by early evening. I want to stop there and hang out for a night, and also get that confirmation letter to stay in a hotel." After a moment's thought, she added with a mocking expression, "I don't think Fenghuang Ancient Town has any trains or planes to Kunming." Oh, throughout the drive from Hubei to Hunan, Yang Cici had been sleeping, only to be woken up midway by her ringing phone. She glanced at it irritably and hung up. Around 5 o'clock, we arrived in Hunan. We reached a place called Luxi. After being in Shanghai for so long, suddenly seeing such a scenic place with mountains and rivers was truly refreshing for the soul. Yang Cici was even more excited, insisting that I stop the car at the viewpoint on the highway to take pictures for her. After I took a few perfunctory shots, I leaned against the railing of the viewpoint, gazing at the county town nestled among the mountains and rivers before me. I thought the housing prices here must be very cheap. If I could keep my Shanghai salary here, then buying a house and living here probably wouldn't be difficult. But is there any woman in this world willing to live with you in such a small county town? This place has no Hermes, no LV, and no Prada. While I was lost in thought, Yang Cici beside me nudged me and said to me, "Uncle, look quickly. There's a car with a Shanghai license plate next to ours." I followed Yang Cici's gaze, and sure enough, there was a Shanghai-plated G-Wagon parked next to the Land Cruiser. Then, a woman wearing sunglasses got out of the car. Just one glance, her air of indifference to everything was unforgettable. Although she was very beautiful, whether she was beautiful or not, compared to her unique aura, seemed no longer important. I glanced at her one more time, under the sunset. I knew that a chance encounter like this would probably only happen once in a lifetime. Even though we stopped in this moment to admire the same scenery, the next moment we would be worlds apart, with no connection whatsoever. And the reason I took that extra glance is because humans have an instinctive yearning for beautiful things or people. But this yearning is different from delusion. This subtle difference, perhaps only those who experience it can understand. Lighting a cigarette, I averted my gaze. But Yang Cici kept staring at the woman and said to me again, "She drives such a nice car, and she's so beautiful. What do you think she does for a living?" I smiled and asked in return, "Are you feeling hostile because you see someone more beautiful than you?" "A little. But do you really think she's more beautiful than me? I'm face blind. I don't know how to compare." Yang Cici gave me a half smile and replied, "It's okay. You can take this opportunity to look at her a few more times. After all, with such a beautiful scenery, such a heart-stirring beauty, all gathered before you, such a good thing won't happen many times in your life." Why don't you go get her phone number for me?" Yang Cici said with a look of disgust. "For you, that would be incredibly audacious." I was in no mood to bicker senselessly with Yang Cici, and that woman didn't give me another chance to look at her. She got into her car and merged into the traffic, disappearing towards some unknown exit. At the same time, as I faced the exquisite little county town before me, a faint sense of nostalgia welled up inside me. It seemed to be the first peaceful place I'd encountered on the way to Dali. It gave me a pleasant sunset. If every sorrow needs a way to be commemorated, I hope to bury all the pessimistic feelings I brought from Shanghai amidst this landscape before me, and return to my confident, optimistic self. I finally remembered to use my phone's camera to capture the scenery before me. At the same time, Yang Cici next to me moved closer. She waved her phone in front of me, and with a meaningful smile, remarked to me, "I've been in Shanghai for so long, and I've met all kinds of women, but I've truly never seen anyone with such a great aura." I glanced over. She had secretly taken a picture of that woman from before, and it was even a picture taken after she removed her sunglasses. Although it was only a profile shot, under the backlit effect, that beauty, blended with the graceful landscape, was so stunning. Before I could say anything, Yang Cici insisted that I help her take a picture in the same spot. I reluctantly took a picture for her. The effect was no less stunning than the other woman's, but it lacked a bit of that sharp aura. Besides, when a woman deliberately compares herself to another woman, she has already lost, in fact. But Yang Cici didn't think so. She looked at the backlit photo again and again. She looked at the backlit photo again and again, then raised her phone high and said with an incredibly confident smile, "Sound the charge, let's go." Before night fell, we prepared to exit the highway, but when passing through the toll booth, we encountered an unimaginably huge traffic jam. Even the ITC lane was blocked by cars from the toll lane. Only then did I realize it was the peak tourist season. A nationally famous ancient town like Fenghuang was surely overcrowded. I opened the car window, stuck my head out looking for a chance to turn around and leave, but Yang Cici didn't seem to mind the traffic jam at all. She just kept taking pictures with her phone of the pigs on the truck next to us and for some reason started laughing to herself, laughing nonstop at those pigs. I said to her, if it's already this congested before we even leave the toll station, we probably won't even be able to drive into the ancient town. Let's just take it slow. I'm not in a hurry. This isn't about being in a hurry or not. I guess we won't even be able to book an inn once we get in. And we'll be stuck in traffic again on the way out. Don't you find it annoying? However, before I could finish my sentence, the car behind us started honking impatiently and loudly. The piercing sound spread like a virus, completely ruining one's mood. In this situation, young Cici finally sighed. Do they have to overreact like this? Let's go. We can visit Fenghuang some other time. Let's go quickly. These people are out here risking their lives, not traveling. With Yang Cici's urging, I finally found a gap to turn the car around, immediately switched to another lane, and got back on the highway. By now, it was completely dark. I glanced at the GPS. The next city on our route was still about 300 kilometers away. This meant we'd have to drive through the night, but Yang Cici had no intention of pulling an all-nighter. She wanted me to drive back to the small county town named Luxi, which we passed before Fenghuang Ancient Town. The reason was very simple, just because that place was beautiful enough. Of course, I didn't want to take a detour, so I tricked her by saying that all the small county towns in Hunan are beautiful, especially the one we were about to pass. After driving for about 100 kilometers, the faint sound of thunder could be heard in the distance. Soon after, it started pouring rain. I didn't dare to drive fast. After turning on the hazard lights, I maintained a speed of about 50 km/h, and up ahead, there had already been an accident where a car couldn't brake in time and rear-ended another. Yang Cici complained that I should have listened to her and gone back to Luxi. At this point, I was even more anxious than she was. If this downpour lasted for another hour, at our current speed, I was afraid we wouldn't even reach the next city to rest by midnight. I drove cautiously for a while, but the rain showed no signs of stopping. Right now, I just wanted to find a rest stop to take a break and fill up the tank while I was at it. But this mountainous area in Hunan was really too remote. Sometimes you could drive 100 kilometers without seeing a single rest stop, just a few temporary roadside parking spots. I don't know which tunnel we were passing through. I was feeling more and more tired, but I wasn't comfortable handing the wheel over to the somewhat impulsive Yang Cici in such harsh weather. So I drank a can of Red Bull, forced myself to stay alert, and continued driving forward. Yang Cici suddenly shouted, slow down, look, isn't that car parked up ahead? The G-Wagon we saw in Luxi?" I reflexively hit the brakes, and since the car wasn't going fast anyway, I quickly pulled over to the shoulder, stopping behind the Shanghai-plated G-Wagon. Then I saw that this car's rear right tire was completely flat. It must have run over something. Yang Cici looked at me and said, "If you know how to change a tire, this looks like a chance for a hero to save the damsel in distress." I ignored her, and after checking the traffic behind me, I chose a relatively safe moment to get out of the car. Then I stood beside the G-Wagon and knocked on the window. The woman inside rolled down the window, and so once again, I came face to face with her in the violent storm. I said to her, "I'll help you change the tire, you open the toolbox in the back." My direct, no-nonsense way of speaking left her stunned for a moment. Then she replied in perfect Mandarin, saying to me, "Thanks, I've already called for roadside assistance, I just have to wait a bit. There have been several accidents behind us, they definitely won't be here anytime soon. Yours is just a minor tire change. Don't waste public resources. Besides, with this heavy rain, parking on the emergency lane isn't safe." She hesitated for a moment and then asked, "It's no trouble?" I smiled. "No trouble. We're also from Shanghai. We just happened to come across you. How could we pretend not to see you? Then thank you. Don't be polite. Get out of the car now and stand behind the guardrail to prevent a secondary accident." After I said that, I hurried back to Yang Cici's Land Cruiser, and after getting Yang Cici out of the car as well, I placed the warning triangle 200 meters behind the car. The two women stood behind the guardrail holding umbrellas while I used all my speed to remove the spare tire mounted on the back of the G-Wagon. This is definitely not a job a woman can do, because a G-Wagon's spare tire is I don't know how many times heavier than a normal car's. After taking the spare tire down, I used the jack to lift the car, but because the lighting was poor, I tried several times but couldn't get the spare tire on. Just then, a large truck passing by added fuel to the fire, splashing up the stagnant water as it drove over it, and in an instant, I was soaked to the bone. This was accompanied by Yang Cici's shriek of surprise. She wanted to come over and hold the umbrella for me, but I sent her back. Because the spot for changing the tire was right next to the traffic lane, with this kind of visibility, it was really too dangerous. After trying again and again, I finally managed to get the spare tire onto the wheel hub, and then quickly used the tool to tighten the lug nuts. After finishing the job, without wasting a second, I yelled at the woman standing by the guardrail, "Get in the car, drive away, it's dangerous here." She looked at me with gratitude in her eyes, knowing this wasn't the place to say thank you. The next moment, she got into her car and once again drove past and disappeared from my sight. I took the towel Yang Cici handed me, wiped the rainwater from my face without even catching my breath, and after retrieving the warning triangle, I continued driving towards the next city on our route. "Uncle, you just did that woman such a huge favor. Why didn't you give her a chance to repay you? With her leaving like that, I'm afraid you'll never see her again in this lifetime. It was just a small favor, a simple helping hand. Don't talk like it was a life-saving grace." "Wow, you call that a small favor? You don't know, when those big trucks sped right past you just now, my heart was in my throat. This is exactly why in this world, there must be men. Because there are some things you women really can't do. For example, when you encounter trouble, all you know is to close your eyes and scream." Yang Cici glared at me and replied, "I was worried about you, and you're still making fun of me. Aren't you a bit too heartless?" I chuckled and didn't answer Yang Cici anymore. Then I drove at 120 km/h to make up for the distance we lost due to the earlier downpour. At 11:30 p.m., we finally arrived at a small county town within Guizhou. This place was different from Wuhan where we stayed last night. It was really too small, too quiet. And the hotel management was even more lax. I managed to book 2 rooms very easily. After getting into the room, the first thing I did was change out of my rain-soaked clothes. Then I took a hot shower. I had always thought I was in good health, but the moment I stepped out of the bathroom, I suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. Then I started feeling chills. I knew I had a fever. I took my temperature. It was almost 40 degrees. So as not to delay the next day's journey, I wrapped myself in the blanket and started chugging water like crazy. But my body really wasn't what it used to be. By the next morning, my body temperature had exceeded 40 degrees. Moreover, my whole body felt weak. In the small clinic next to the hotel, I was on an IV drip. Yang Cici sat beside me, bored out of her mind, flipping through a romance novel she had with her. I said to her, "If you really have nothing to do, can you go to the newsstand across the street and buy me a few packs of cigarettes?" Yang Cici glanced at me. "I think you should focus on saving your own life first before you think about smoking." I clutched my chest with my hand and said with a pained expression, "If I don't smoke, you'll die right now." Yang Cici put down the novel in her hand and looked around. "But this isn't a smoking area with so many patients here. Do you have the heart to poison them a second time? You'll smoke in the restroom." Yang Cici looked at me incredulously and then gave me a thumbs up. "It's one thing to risk your life for a smoke, but you're even willing to lose face for it. I'm impressed, truly impressed." I glanced at Yang Cici and weakly slumped down in the chair. "I really can't stand you. I'll go buy them for you, all right? What kind of cigarettes do you want?" Under the shade of a tree outside the clinic, I lit the Zhongnanhai cigarette that Yang Cici had just bought. Meanwhile, Yang Cici sat beside me, one hand cupping her chin, the other holding up my IV bag. Before I had even finished half the cigarette, she started to complain. "Listen here, uncle. You're already old, yet you still overestimate yourself trying to be a hero saving a damsel in distress. You did it fine, but why am I the one who ends up suffering here with you? And what's worse, you little bastard even did something as unconscionable as abandoning your comrade in Wuhan. Thinking back, I really should have added some Sanlu milk powder to your IV bag so you'd be unable to take care of yourself for the rest of your life. Could you be any more vicious?" Yang Cici thought for a moment and then asked in return, "Is there a drug that can poison someone to the point they can't have sex for the rest of their life?" I choked on my own cigarette smoke, and in the sunlight filtering through the leaves, I saw a face that didn't look like it was joking at all. I truly admired her ability to phrase things, but I just couldn't digest this peculiar sense of humor. Yang Cici kindly patted my back, helping me catch my breath. When I felt better, she leaned into my ear and whispered, "Let me tell you a secret. Did you put poison in my IV bag?" No, I wouldn't do something so boring. After all, I know my limits." "Then say it." Yang Cici gave a mischievous, meaningful smile. "Actually, last night, that especially beautiful woman left her phone number with me. She's going to Dali too. She told you to call her when you get to Dali. She wants to treat you to a meal to thank you, right? Do you want it? If you take it, it's like an urban romance movie. The beginning is always written like this. She's going to Dali too? I don't want it. Are you sure you're not just pretending to be serious?" I was stunned for a moment and turned my head to look at Yang Cici, pointing to my chest and replying, "Actually, I also have a secret in my heart. Is it about me?" "Of course. I don't believe you. We haven't even known each other for 2.5 days. But the plot between us is even more like the beginning of an urban romance movie. Do you want to hear it?" Yang Cici looked at me with a half-believing, half-doubting gaze. "Don't scare me. I'm still a child. I want to go home to my mom and drink milk. I don't want to get involved in your world," I said with a serious expression. "Actually, I'm a mole planted by Lao Huang to be by your side. Don't you find it a bit coincidental? Just as you wanted to go to Dali, I quit my job and also wanted to go to Dali. It does seem a bit like that. Hurry up and tell me, what do you really want as a mole next to me? To be your man?" Hearing that, Yang Cici suddenly had a look of realization. "No wonder you wanted to ditch me in Wuhan, because after we met in person, you knew you weren't good enough for me, so you knew to back off. No, it's you who isn't good enough for me. Let's not talk about who's not good enough for whom. You tell me, if I become your woman, what's in it for Uncle Huang? You figure it out yourself. Tisk, can you not joke like this? He won't let you do that. He's such a calculating person. Then why did you joke with me like that? We're both adults. Don't you understand the principle of not doing to others what you don't want done to you? In our few arguments, Yang Sisi conceded for the first time. She didn't say anything else. But I saw in her silence a hint of slyness. She wasn't as shallow as she appeared. In her heart, she actually knew what kind of person Huang Heping was. After a bumpy journey, we finally arrived in Kunming on the 4th day after leaving Shanghai. It wasn't until we got here that we truly got a feel for the land south of the colorful clouds. During this time, old Huang contacted me a few more times, reminding me that I must stay in Dali and keep track of Yang Sisi's whereabouts. In a week at the latest, he would come here with Yang Sisi's parents. He also asked me if Yang Sisi's attitude towards going to Dali had changed at all. I didn't know how to answer. I just told him that in these 4 days, Yang Sisi had spent all of the 6,000 yuan he had transferred. If there was no other help, he probably wouldn't last long in Dali. So his decision to bring Yang Sisi's parents to Dali in a week was pretty good timing. After passing Kunming, Yang Sisi handed the steering wheel back to me. While I drove, she didn't want to miss a single bit of scenery along the way, constantly recording with her phone, flowers and plants that flashed by, the ever-changing clouds. My mood also underwent a subtle change as we got closer and closer to Dali. Looking only at the scenery, completely free from industrial pollution, this really was a place worth visiting. But was the atmosphere of life here really like what Wang Li had once told me? I wasn't afraid of being disappointed myself. I was just afraid that the dream Wang Li had tried so hard to create was really just a dream. Yang Sisi beside me finally put down her phone and stretched, looked at the car's GPS and said to me, "Only 50 kilometers left to Dali. Tell me, how are you feeling right now? Do I need to say much to someone you'll never cross paths with again?" Yang Sisi laughed and replied, "I can hear the resentment in that sentence of yours. You don't want to part ways, do you? Planning to keep living with me in Dali, where we'll constantly be running into each other? I really don't like your imagination. Let's just part ways soon." "Fine, we'll part ways." As if I care that much about you. I glanced at her and said nothing more. My bad mood wasn't her fault. It was just that as we were about to reach Dali, I was reminded of the sorrows in Shanghai. And I couldn't possibly pour out these feelings to an optimist like Yang Sisi and make her understand my helpless pain. I understood very well that these things were destined for me to bear alone. Road signs for Dali ancient town gradually appeared. The characteristic architecture of the Bai people in Yunnan and the multicolored clouds weaving between the mountain peaks created the unique scenery of Dali. I tried to relax a little and finally stopped the car at a temporary parking spot. Then I took Wang Lei's tablet out of my bag and recorded a short video. At that moment, I just hoped she could, like me, see Erhai Lake sparkling under the sun. I also hoped she could feel my emotions. Yang Sisi came up beside me again. She looked at the tablet in my hand with disdain and said, "Yo, yo, yo, a man like you using pink? That's just too perverted. It belongs to someone I lit a cigarette. The wind at Erhai Lake was strong, very cool, but when I closed my eyes to take it in, I thought of Lugia, who had left me to pursue a better life. I had nothing to repay the youth she had given me over the years. I could only live well in Dali to prove that her choice was right, because after we broke up, both of us would have a better life than before." Yang Sisi, in her gossipy spirit, pressed on. "So, it's your ex-girlfriend's dream? It belongs to a friend from my hometown." Perhaps sensing my lack of enthusiasm, she didn't ask any more questions, but she couldn't stay idle for long. She squinted her eyes again and said to me with a smile, "That contact information the woman left for you, you really don't want it? I already said it was a small thing, just a helping hand. Don't you regret it?" "No regrets. Let's go. Dongchuan is up ahead. We'll get off the highway there." It was the peak tourist season in Dali. I didn't let Yang Sisi drive into the ancient town, which was gridlocked with traffic. I got out of the car on National Highway 214. Behind me was a huge billboard that said, "We must protect Erhai Lake." This inadvertently gave me a sense of assurance, because I believed that under this spiritual guidance, Dali would become more and more beautiful, better and better. Yang Sisi and I parted ways here. After I took all my luggage out of the trunk, she rolled down the car window and called my name for the first time. "Wei Mikayo, want to have a farewell meal?" My treat. "No. I'm afraid you'll bribe the owner to poison the food." I thought she would scold me or mock me, but she just smiled at me. "If you don't want to eat, then fine. But I hope if we run into each other in Dali someday, you won't look as half dead as you do now. I think in Dali, you should live a little happier. Otherwise, what's the point of coming all this way? It's the same as in Shanghai. You'd be miserable either way." I looked at her, wanting to say thank you, but she immediately rolled up the car window. Soon after, she merged into the traffic and disappeared from my sight. I watched silently, and in this strange place filled with people and cars, I felt a sense of loneliness from starting over. After a while, the streetlights came on. In the distance were the lights of thousands of homes, but not a single light could find its way into my heart. Because to this completely unfamiliar city, I was just a wanderer. Sitting by the side of the bustling road, only cigarettes could save my loneliness and my confusion about this city. I knew I shouldn't use a negative word like confusion to describe my mood at this moment, But when I faced thousands of lights, and none of them belonged to me, my heart would inevitably give rise to many uncontrollable negative feelings. But this didn't mean I was disappointed with this city. I just wished I had someone to talk to right now. About another 10 minutes passed. Finally, a scooter with no license plate stopped in front of me. A man with dreadlocks, wearing shorts and flip-flops, was lighting a cigarette. He looked down at me and asked, "Did you book a bed at our hostel online?" I quickly stood up. "Are you from the Feng Ren Yuan Youth Hostel?" "That's right, I'm the owner. You can just call me Tainan." Tainan then smiled and explained, "In a place like Dali, not many people use their real names. People who come here more or less want to forget a few things. A name is something you can forget, with the lowest cost, so everyone does it." Tainan's words struck a chord with me, so much that I was silent for a moment before replying, "Okay, you can just call me Mikao." Tainan patted my shoulder. "Don't bring the formalities of the big city to Dali. We're all pretty casual here. No need for hellos, thank yous." Tainan drove me through several unlit alleys, and we finally arrived at his hostel. What I didn't understand was, the hostel was pitch black. There was no sign that it was open for business at all. As Tainan opened the iron gate, he said to me, "They've been renovating Airhigh Lake recently. All the nearby hostels and hotels have been ordered to suspend operations for rectification. Our water and electricity have been cut off, so you're the last guest my hostel is taking." After getting me settled, Tainan prepared to leave. He said he was drinking with friends on Renmin Road, and had left midway to pick me up. So he had to go back to finish drinking with his buddies. After he left, the entire youth hostel seemed devoid of any sound. After eating a bowl of instant noodles, I lay down on the bed, looking at the sparkling starry sky outside the skylight. My heart felt strangely empty. It wasn't until I lit a cigarette that I found a small sense of being alive. I habitually picked up my phone. Other than a text from my service provider welcoming me to Dali, no one else had checked on me. I really wanted to talk to someone. Then I discovered in my chat history my last message with Wang Lei. She had asked me if I had decided when to go to Dali. I replied that I was thinking about it. Now, I was in some small hostel in Dali while she was gone forever. How could I not be overcome with emotion? I really missed her. I wanted to have a few drinks with her again in some small tavern, to hear her complain in her Sichuan accent about the customers who disrespected her. But she was like a withered flower. Even if she were to sprout again, she could only bloom on the other shore that I would never see. Under the dim light and the sound of lapping waves, I spent all my time coming up with hypotheses. If Wang Li hadn't died, would I open a profitable inn in Dali, just as she wished? Then a few years later, welcome her here, and you guys would run the inn together as if it were your own home. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? But the more I made such hypotheses, the more it hurt because it brought regret. I should have decisively agreed with Wang Lei, and then also urged her to come along. Maybe such a tragedy wouldn't have happened. After Wang Lei, I thought of Lu Jia, who knows where she is now. I didn't have too many feelings, just a little sadness because I still loved her. This state lasted for a while. Finally, someone contacted me, and it was the person I wanted to avoid the most. To be honest, when I learned old Huang's true motive for asking me to escort young Sisi, I was quite repulsed by him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen to buy a plane ticket in Wuhan, planning to leave young Sisi behind and go to Dali alone. But until this moment, I still didn't quite understand. Even if young Sisi played tricks, as long as I didn't want to, I could still choose to abandon her in the next city, after Wuhan. But why didn't I do that? Perhaps it was because she really needed me. After all, such a long journey is not something a woman can easily handle. Just like the woman from Shanghai, driving the G-Class we met on the road, when she had a flat tire, she could only passively wait for roadside assistance in such harsh weather. But having a man along is completely different. I finally answered old Huang's call. He asked caringly, "Have you and Sisi arrived in Dali?" "Yes, we arrived this afternoon. Are you with her?" "No. After arriving in Dali, we went our separate ways." Old Huang was stunned for 10 seconds, then sighed and said, "Mikao, look at you. Why do you treat my repeated instructions like the wind in one ear and out the other? I told you to follow her, so someone could keep an eye on her, so we could find her in Dali. Now you're telling me you went your separate ways. Isn't that messing up my plan?" I replied with dissatisfaction. "Director Huang, let's be reasonable. She's a girl. I can't follow her around all day. If she deliberately wants to hide from me, how can I possibly follow her? Then you should at least stay in touch." I responded to his pragmatism and self-interest with silence. Old Huang grew more anxious. "Sisi's parents and I will be in Dali in a week. You should quickly contact Sisi. Just make sure we can find her when we arrive. This favor from you, Mikao, Old Huang, will never forget." This was never about a favor. It's really not convenient for me. After saying that, I hung up on Old Huang. I didn't want to be in Dali and constantly be bothered by people from Shanghai. But unexpectedly, a moment later, Old Huang sent me a text message. "Your father called today, asking the company about your situation. He meant for me to take more care of you. I was careful not to tell him that you quit and went to Dali. But your attitude now is really annoying me. Because this kid doesn't understand the principle of reciprocity in human relations." This message served as a heavy reminder to me. No matter how determined I was, I couldn't truly and completely sever contact with my previous life. and the thing I wanted to see least was my parents worrying about me. So, reluctantly, I bowed my head to old Huang for the first time. I finally replied, "Don't try to scare me. As for finding young Cece, I can only do my best. If I find her, I'll let you know immediately." Seeing that I had softened, old Huang took the opportunity to launch a sugar-coated attack. "I'm telling you, Mikao, there's a real opportunity right in front of you. The company is currently lacking a product director. You've worked at the company for many years, after all. In terms of ability and experience, you can definitely handle this position. Come back to Shanghai with us this time." I never expected that even though I was in Daly, I would still be tempted by something 3,000 kilometers away. Of course, I knew the company I used to work for very well. It had a very strict salary and bonus system, so the salary of a product director would be about twice my previous salary. But even so, I still couldn't afford a house in Shanghai and couldn't afford to marry a Shanghai woman. It's not that the meaning of my life in Shanghai had to be measured by buying a house, but in a city like that, if I didn't have a house, it would be very difficult to find love. And once you fall into this predicament, the humiliating feeling of living without dignity is the most lethal thing, the most tormenting. Wang Lei was the one who saw through this before I did, which is why she tried so hard to persuade me to leave Shanghai. While thinking about these things, I lit a cigarette. Until I was about to finish it, I replied to old Huang's message. "I don't want to go back to Shanghai anymore. Dali is very nice. The GDP of Shanghai and Dali differs by more than 50 times. Do you know what GDP means? It's real money. Shanghai is where the streets are paved with gold. Ever since setting foot in Dali, I had a surreal, dreamlike feeling. So I particularly hated old Huang for exposing these bloody realities to me. I didn't reply to this message because I knew that the people who could live comfortably in Shanghai, a place filled with gold, were very few, and some people would eventually have to leave. After ending the conversation with old Huang, I got out of bed and sat in the empty courtyard, looking around blankly. I didn't even remember to send a message to young Cece, just quietly thinking about how to open an inn here that could make a living. Around 12 o'clock, Tai Nan finally came back to the hostel. Following him was a young man carrying a guitar. Tai Nan introduced him, saying you could call him Director Ma. Director Ma was clearly not as talkative as Tai Nan. He silently placed the beer bottle in his hand on the table, then stood in a corner and lit a cigarette. Then Tai Nan placed a bag of pig's head meat on the table and, reeking of alcohol, said to me, "Welcome to this world of decadence, melancholy, loneliness, and shamelessness. Hurry up and forget those sentimental pains. Tonight, we don't go home until we're drunk." The morning in Dali comes later than in Shanghai. I woke up at 6:30, and it was just dawn and very cool. It was clearly midsummer, but the temperature was only about 15 degrees. After I washed up, I left the hostel amidst the snores of Director Ma and Tai Nan, and a few hundred meters across from the hostel was Erhai Lake. At this time, there was no light, only the sound of lapping waves coordinating with my brain to imagine what Erhai Lake would look like at dawn. I sat down on a reef. In this world that had not yet awakened, there was a faint, elegant helplessness. And I, a person in desperate need of joy, was sitting by Erhai Lake, wallowing in self-pity, indifferently watching the cold waves surge like an out-of-control prostate. Gradually, dawn arrived, but my mood remained unchanged from beginning to end. I sat still in one position for a long time, until I could clearly see the colors of the surrounding plants and trees and what kind they were. Under the sunlight, the water of Erhai Lake was a deep, clear blue, but the fishy smell wafting from afar also indicated that this was indeed a lake in need of restoration. I seemed to have come at the wrong time. Because while drinking last night, I learned that currently the inns in Dali had thousands of establishments forced to shut down, supposedly to protect Erhai Lake. Even a friend of Tai Nan's had lost so much money they went bankrupt. I couldn't choose this time to recklessly invest the 190,000 that Wang Lei left behind into the inn industry, an industry that was very unstable in Dali. But I also couldn't just stay idle like this. As I was thinking, a white yacht carrying tourists sped past in front of me, creating a circle of waves. Then I saw the mountain on the opposite side, its reflection in the sea looking very elegant. I unconsciously fell into a state of relaxation, not calculating how much life I had wasted this morning. But suddenly, the sound of a phone notification interrupted me. I picked up my phone to look. It was a WeChat message from Yang Cece. "Uncle, have you found a place to stay yet?" This felt a bit like walking right into a trap. After all, old Huang had just asked me to be sure to keep tabs on her in Dali. I immediately replied to her message. "Of course I found one." "Have you found one? Take a guess. I'm not a worm in your stomach. How could I guess?" Yang Cece sent a series of smiley faces, then changed the subject. "Uncle, let's play a game. If I can find you before lunch, will you promise me one thing? I guarantee it's something you can do. Stop kidding around. Do you know how big Dali is?" "Of course I know. So you won't lose out on this deal because I basically have very little chance of winning." "Fine. What if before lunch you can't find me? I'll treat you to a meal. Then come find me." "Okay, starting now, you have to stay in one spot and not move. If you deliberately make it hard for me, you're a puppy." "What if I have to pee?" "Hold it in." I looked at this conversation and smiled. Then I lit another cigarette, silently waiting for this little lamb to walk right into my net. But I was very curious. Where did she get the confidence to be so sure she could find me? The difficulty was no less than finding a needle in a haystack. Time passed, second by second, minute by minute. To avoid the strong UV rays, I moved under a tree. Then, not letting myself stay idle, I continuously searched on my phone for some properties suitable for an inn. I thought that if a portion of the inns were still allowed to remain, so there must be a place where I can open an inn. Besides, thinking about it from another angle, it's precisely because the prospects of the inn industry are worrying that I have a chance, during this special period of uncertainty, to take over an inn that's for sale at a low price. I've also saved over 100,000 yuan these past few years, plus the 190,000 Wang Lei gave me. I've barely scraped together 300,000. Based on some preliminary research online, this amount of money should be enough to take over a small inn. After organizing some information about available properties into the notes on my phone, it was already almost noon. Unlike in the morning, the number of tourists by Erhai Lake had clearly increased. Some were riding scooter-like motorcycles, some were driving convertible jeeps, and even more were in rented four-wheeled electric cars. These colorful vehicles were like beads strung together into a chain. They circled Erhai Lake, as if adorning Erhai Lake with a vibrant, moving necklace. A moment later, at a pier not far away, another group of wandering singers arrived. They set up a tent next to the white building, selling beer while singing for the tourists. Tainan said to wait until it gets cold when the seagulls fly back from the north. That's when Erhai Lake is truly beautiful, but I already found it very beautiful at this moment. I even wanted to buy some beer from those wandering singers and sit closer to listen to them sing. I almost forgot about my bet with Yang Cici. Not until I saw her car with the Shanghai license plate, a Land Cruiser, slowly approaching from a distance. It's like seeing a ghost in broad daylight. Not to mention the ancient city, just a single loop around Erhai Lake is over 100 kilometers. I really don't know how she found this place. Yang Cici's car hadn't even arrived yet, but she was already honking loudly from afar. When she got a little closer, she rolled down the window and waved at me. Only then did I walk towards her. How did you find me here? I can't tell you that. Anyway, I found you, so you have to admit you lost the bet. Hearing that, I chuckled to myself, hoping she'd walk right into my trap, saving me the trouble of looking for her. It's fine if you don't tell me, but you'd better not make any unreasonable demands of me. Unreasonable? Not at all. I just want to ask you for a small favor. Go on, what do you need help with? Yang Cici looked embarrassed. Later, you'll treat me to a meal first, and then in the afternoon, you'll come with me to the ancient city to be a street vendor. A street vendor? Kid, who pushed you to this point? Yang Cici scowled at me. Can you stop being so sarcastic? Who pushed me? You don't know? Besides, I don't think being a street vendor is anything to be ashamed of. On the contrary, it helps me experience firsthand different aspects of society. It's a way to get to the front lines of life. You can see the good and the bad right away. Come on. You make street vending sound like some grand, eternal career. Yang Cici gave an awkward smile. Tell me, what are you planning to sell? Yang Cici hurriedly opened the trunk of her car. A friend of mine specializes in selling these unique ethnic clothes in the ancient city. Yesterday, he went to Thailand with some friends, so he left this pile of clothes with me. He said that for every piece I help him sell, I get a 20 yuan commission. I thought about it and it seemed like a pretty good deal. But I heard there are a lot of city management officers in the ancient city who often crack down on small vendors like us. So I thought about finding someone to help. If I help you with this, I'll become an accomplice. Why does everything that comes out of your mouth sound so twisted? This is clearly teamwork, okay? If I carry this pile of clothes by myself, I'll definitely get caught. If you join my team, it'll be a different story. Look at those long legs of yours. If you don't use them for some sneaky business, it would be a real waste of the wonderful gift your parents gave you. Can I spit in your face? Yang Cici recoiled in fear, covering her face with both hands. Why are you so disgusting? We're both from Shanghai. Just think of it as supporting my startup. What a grand career. In a small noodle shop in the ancient city, Yang Cici and I sat facing each other. She was eating egg noodles and I was eating noodles with minced meat. It looked so plain. I finally couldn't help but say to her, tell me, instead of being a rich young lady, why must you run to Dali to live such a devalued life? I think living in Shanghai is the devalued life. Last time, some of my school friends organized a cocktail party. It was called a party, but it was really just a personal showcase. The men showed off their car keys and designer watches. The women showed off their leather handbags and their head-to-toe designer outfits. At the time, I was carrying a 300 yuan bag, and someone said to me, Cici, you can't carry a bag like this to social events. If you don't have money, just tell me. I can lend you one. After all, I have a lot of bags like that. I just smiled. Yang Cici continued, I can't stand it when people make sarcastic remarks about me. So I got angry and took my dad's card, went downstairs to the mall, and bought a limited edition Hermes bag. On the surface, I felt triumphant, but thinking back, I was actually no different from those people. They were fake and materialistic, and I was just a second-generation rich kid relying on my parents to save face. In essence, we're all parasites who contribute nothing to society. So after that, I hated that circle even more. I really wanted to find a comfortable place, to live the life I like. Dali is pretty great. After Yang Cici finished speaking as if to vent, she added a spoonful of hot chili into her noodle bowl and then asked me, I've asked you many times, but you wouldn't say. What was the real reason you left Shanghai? I couldn't see any hope. In Shanghai, 90% of the people from out of town can't see any hope, but very few of them actually dare to leave. So I don't think not seeing any hope is the real reason you left. I stopped my chopsticks and looked at young Cece. She also looked at me with expectant eyes, not knowing that for me, this was truly a past, too painful to tell anyone. I didn't want to mention Wang Lei to anyone. I just wanted to bury her tragedy deep in my heart and turn it into the motivation to push myself, to live a good life. Yang Cece finally lost her patience waiting. She waved her hand. Ugh, you're so boring. Be careful not to suffocate yourself with all those secrets. Adult problems are scary. I'm afraid if I tell you, it'll scare you to death. Yikes, then don't say it. Better you die than I die. Adult problems really are scary. After saying that, Yang Cece gave me a scornful look, then, as if to vent, used her chopsticks to poke her bowl twice. You don't know until you've been a street vendor just how fierce the competition in this business is. In the ancient city alone, the number of vendors selling ethnic clothes like young Cece was so high you'd see one every 50 meters. Whenever someone shouted city management is coming, they would scatter in all directions and then find another place without city management to continue their small business to make a living. Within an hour, young Cece and I had been chased away twice. Finally, with nowhere left to run, we had to flee to National Highway 214. This wasn't a place for business, but at least no one was managing it. Yang Cece and I sat under the shade of a tree. She wasn't discouraged at all. Fanning herself with her hand, she said, even though those city management officers made us lose face, we still managed to sell 2 sets of clothes. Hehe, a net profit of 40 yuan. I glanced at her. Go to the grocery store across the street and buy me a bottle of water. I'm dying of thirst. This is hard-earned money. Can you not be so extravagant? Give me a cut! My sweat and effort are in there too. Yang Cece clutched the handful of change to her chest and replied like a money grubber. In your dreams, you came here to sell clothes with me because you lost the bet. Besides, you didn't help me hawk the goods once all afternoon, yet you dare ask for a commission? Even if I didn't contribute, I still put in the effort. Can you buy me a bottle of water? No, next time, bring your own water. You are not allowed to waste the fruits of my labor. There won't be a next time, we'd better not see each other again. I've discovered that whenever I get involved with you, bad luck follows. Just as Yang Cece and I were haggling, Tainan rode his unregistered motorcycle out from the Yu Road intersection. He wasn't surprised to see me, probably because he was an old-timer who had nothing to do all day but wander around the ancient city. I tossed him a cigarette. After lighting it, he looked at young Cece beside me and asked with a smile, "This girl is so pretty. Is she your girlfriend? Look at your eyes. In what way is she worthy of me?" However, as soon as I finished speaking, young Cece raised her hand and slapped the back of my neck. I laughed while covering my neck. She cursed amidst my laughter. You, an old man with one foot in the grave, can't you have a little shame? Go grab anyone off the street and ask them, is it me who's not worthy of you, or an old pervert like you who's not worthy of me? I was wrong. I'm not worthy of you. I'm not worthy of you. Only then did Yang Cece stop, but the very next second she kicked me, startling Tainan. Then he exclaimed to me, "This kid is fierce. Where did you pick her up?" "Don't even mention it. Since I met her, it's been a history of blood and tears. Have you ever seen a nearly 30-year-old man being chased by a group of city management officers through the ancient city like a scared chicken? Seriously, every time I recall that scene, my heroic spirit takes a heavy blow." Tainan laughed loudly, but Yang Cece disagreed. "If I were you, I wouldn't be complaining like this, because you should be thanking me properly. If I hadn't given you this opportunity, when would your old bones ever get a workout? As a person, it's better to have some vitality. Look at how you were running earlier. You had the style of an escaped convict. It made all the girls on Renmin Road stare with wide eyes. So impressive, you scaled a 2.5-meter wall in a flash. Even a dog would probably only be that agile." I was about to retort when Tainan suddenly looked towards the city gate and said, "You two probably have to make another flash escape. There's a city management van coming over there." Yang Cece and I looked up, and indeed, Tainan wasn't joking. I felt like my gall was about to burst. I slung the bag of clothes over my shoulder and pulled young Cece to run to the opposite street. I only heard Tainan shouting from behind, "Let's have a few drinks tonight. Bring your girlfriend along too." Young Cece replied, "Drink my ass. I'm not his girlfriend. Let's talk after we've managed to save our own skins." After half a day of selling on the run like that, young Cece's business wasn't bad. She sold more than 10 items in total. I said it was because it was the peak season. It might not sell as well later on, but she insisted it was because she was both enthusiastic and good at marketing. Whatever the truth was, the day's business had indeed ended in a state of constant fear. I put the remaining clothes into the trunk of her car, then sat down beside the car in the shade and lit a cigarette. Yang Cece came closer and finally agreed to buy me a bottle of mineral water. I opened the cap and drank half the bottle in one go. Just then, she took a box from the bag beside her and handed it to me. "Here, this is for you." "What is it?" "Open it and see." I opened it. Inside the box was an exquisitely crafted marionette. Just one look at it lifted my spirits considerably. Yang Cece then said to me, "I know you're bored being alone, so I bought you a little something to cheer you up. So, you should smoke less." As she spoke, she took the half-smoked cigarette from my hand and threw it into the nearby trash can. She didn't need me to say any words of thanks. Immediately after, she took out her cell phone and seemed to be chatting with someone. As for me, I was a bit dazed. It seemed like it had been a long time since anyone had reminded me to smoke less. I suddenly thought of Lugia, who was far away. I suddenly became very concerned about whether she had ever truly loved me. It seemed she had never cared about my smoking. All she cared about was whether I got a promotion and a raise. But over the years, I always disappointed her. While I was in a daze, Yang Sisi suddenly patted my shoulder and said with a mischievous smile, "Someone is treating us to a big meal tonight. Do you want to go? A friend of yours?" The friends I know in Dali are all a bunch of poor friends. They wouldn't dare to casually say the words big meal. Besides, they specifically invited you. I'm just tagging along to benefit. Yang Sisi and I, two people with tons of time to waste, found a shady spot and just waited from 6 to 8 o'clock. Then, I finally couldn't hold back and said, "Are you tricking me? We've waited this long. Where's the person?" "I'm not tricking you. How about you go back and take a shower first? Look at your weak body. You're sweating just sitting here. Cut the crap. Where's the sweat?" With a look of disgust, Yang Sisi lifted the back of my shirt. The wind blowing through the gap between my shirt and skin instantly brought me a cool sensation. 3 minutes later, I saw the woman I had once helped on the highway. The feeling of this moment was like standing on the bank of the Huangpu River looking out at half of Shanghai. I say this because she exuded a strong Shanghai aura, representing the most elite class of that city. My former self lived on the opposite side of her, looking incredibly insignificant. But it's undeniable that, up close, she was even more beautiful and captivating than the image I saw in the sunset at the observatory that day. I'm really not good at describing women, but the changes in my body and heart couldn't lie. This woman before me in real life I would almost never have the chance to interact with. So, after facing her without any mental preparation, I didn't know how to talk to her or whether to greet her first. I realized that Yang Sisi had been in contact with her all along, and she was the one who wanted to treat us to dinner tonight, probably to thank me for that rainy night when I changed the spare tire for her car on the highway. Then she spoke first. "Sorry to have kept you two waiting." "Oh, it's fine. We're both idle people anyway." After I spoke, I smiled at her and lit a cigarette to make myself look a bit more at ease. She responded with a very faint smile. "I was in a hurry that night. If I hadn't kept Cece's contact information, I'm afraid I really wouldn't have had the chance to treat you to a meal, to express my gratitude. It was a small matter not worth mentioning." She didn't seem good at initiating topics of conversation with others. So after I said that, the two of us brought the conversation to a dead end. Luckily, there was young Cece. She glanced at the two of us and said, "Aren't you two going to introduce yourselves first? Otherwise, when you meet next time, you'll just have to call each other, 'Hey, you.'" I finally looked her straight in the eye, then was the first to look away. "My name is Mikao. From Sichuan, worked in Shanghai for a few years." She nodded. "My name is Ye Zi. I'm considered half Shanghainese." I found her statement, half Shanghainese, a bit curious. Then I noticed her facial features were much sharper than the average woman's, and her skin was fairer, but she hadn't completely lost the appearance of an East Asian, so she was most likely mixed race. Sure enough, Yang Sisi chimed in. "Sister Ye's maternal grandmother is English, so if you do the math, she has 1/4 English blood." I nodded, then looked at her again. She stood in the wind, seemingly creating her own world, and worldly mortals like me could only watch from afar, through many barriers, even though she was actually very close to me right then. So I imagined another possibility. If Yang Sisi wasn't here, and it was just me and her alone, could I make her come down from her pedestal? And could I also crack a few jokes with her, showing my true self in front of her? Actually, this thought was rather pointless, because I'm really not good at interacting with this type of woman. Without Yang Sisi here to stir things up, it would only be more awkward. That night, I became an incredibly lucky man. On my left was Yang Sisi, and on my right was the newly acquainted Yeji. If I were a particularly vain person, this moment would surely be the most enjoyable time of my life, because the gazes of strangers are the most honest. They always looked at me with a "what right do you have" kind of gaze. As we walked further, similar gazes came from another group of people, making me feel like I was about to be killed. In the end, our host, Yeji, took Yang Sisi and me to a small farmhouse courtyard by Erhai Lake. Before knocking on the door, she turned back and said to us, "This is a Taiwanese friend of mine, who runs a private kitchen here." Yang Sisi piped up again. "I've been starving all day. Just for this meal, is it good, sister?" "Of course." Before he came to Dali, he was a Michelin-starred chef. I didn't really understand what a Michelin star was. Yang Sisi, however, seemed to understand very well. She gave Yazi a look of disbelief, but this time, she didn't ask many questions. The person who opened the door for us was a middle-aged Taiwanese man. Yeji called him An Cheng. With An Cheng was another middle-aged woman. Yeji called her Chi Li. They are a married couple, and the one cooking for us is An Cheng. Compared to the road we came on, entering the courtyard was a completely different scene. An Cheng's private kitchen was mostly made of wood and earth, and filled with many flowers and plants. Under the lights, I suddenly felt like I had returned to a primitive way of life, and many of the decorations inside also showed me a certain refinement. I have to admit, the place Chili and An Cheng chose, though far from the market, was absolutely worth it. Anyway, if I have the chance, I will definitely become a regular customer here in the future. As for young Sisi and Yezi at this moment, they were both standing by the balcony railing, looking into the distance, admiring the nearby Erhai Lake and the ribbon of lights connecting the opposite shore. Looking at their backs, I felt a very pleasant tranquility. Finally, after Chili left, I took the initiative to speak to Yezi. After being in Shanghai for so long, my heart is full of frustrations that I can't shake off. This place is so nice. It's like another world. Yazi turned back to look at me and smiled. Really? I just simply find the night view in Dali very beautiful. Pausing for a moment, she added, actually, Shanghai has its good points too. At least there are many opportunities. But if you face this city with an escapist mentality, you'll most likely find yourself in a very passive position. I'm not stupid. I could tell she seemed to be alluding to something. Then I thought about how Yang Cici always had a way to contact her. I was afraid she had told her about me, resigning and coming to Dali, so she wanted to remind me of something. This must have been well-intentioned. But Shanghai, I really can't go back anymore, because my heart died there along with Wang Lei. The atmosphere was a bit heavy. I don't know if Yang Cici did it intentionally or not, but she changed the subject, asking Yazi, sister, was this little courtyard also designed by An Cheng? It was Qi Li. Qi Li used to be an architect. So amazing. No wonder many friends say Dali is a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. You can meet so many masters just by having a meal. But why did they give up such good jobs to come to Dali? Besides, don't their children need them to worry about them? Yazi smoothed back a lock of hair messed up by the wind. I've never asked. They've also never taken the initiative to tell me. So are they enjoying life in Dali? As soon as Yang Cici finished speaking, I unconsciously looked towards the kitchen, where Qi Li and Cheng were busy. But this time, my keen perception didn't work. From the beginning until now, I could only feel their enthusiasm and hospitality. Whether they were truly happy or not, I couldn't tell, but they were like a mirror placed in front of me. If they could cast everything aside to live well in Dali, then why can't I? Conversely, that would also affect my conviction. Because I know nothing about Dali. The only people I can refer to are Cheng and Qi Li, who are similar to me. Just as Yizi was about to answer Yang Cici, Qi Li brought up a plate of matsutake mushrooms from downstairs. This topic came to an abrupt end, so whether she and Cheng were just getting by or truly enjoying life became a mystery. Dinner began, and Cheng very ceremoniously opened a bottle of champagne for us. The three of us picked up our chopsticks together, and Cheng's cooking skills were truly number one. At least in all my years in Shanghai, I had never eaten any Western or Taiwanese food that tasted so wonderful. Thinking back, Yizi must have thought carefully before inviting us to dinner. That's why she brought us here. If we say that communication between people must pursue fairness, then I feel this meal was enough for her to repay my small favor. After finishing a steamed river shrimp, I gave a thumbs up, telling Cheng that the environment here was good and the food was even better. And Cheng looked at me and smiled, then teased with a pout. You there? Don't just praise the food and the scenery. You have to take good care of the two beauties beside you. I think that even Dali's wind, flowers, snow, and moon can't compare to them. Qi Li chimed in with Cheng, praising both Yang Cici and Yazi. Then she asked me, do you want to drink some of Dali's local specialty beer, Feng Hua Shui Yue wind, flower, snow, moon? I was a bit curious. That's right, Dali has two towns, Shangguan and Xiaguan. There's also the famous Kangshan Mountain and Erhai Lake. These four places each have their own unique features, which is why there's the saying, Xiaguan's wind, Shangguan's flowers, Kangshan's snow, and Erhai's moon. Now many people from other places compare Dali to wind, flowers, snow, and moon. I think it's quite accurate. But what that artistic conception is really like, you still have to experience it for yourself to know. I looked at Qi Li and nodded, then took the can of Feng Hua Shui Yue beer from her hand. Unconsciously, I fell into a daze again. I gradually felt as if I had turned into a stream of air and with an extremely yearning posture clung to the wind, flowers, snow, and moon in every possible future scenario. A comfortable environment brings a comfortable mood. So even without someone to get drunk with, I already felt intoxicated, and towards this completely new life, I seemed to have even more feelings. It was that my heart looked forward even more to the day I could build the inn. I want to raise an Alaskan Malamute in the future, and together we will welcome guests from all corners of the world, because this is the only thing I can do for Wang Lei. In my drunken daze, I happened to see Yizhi sitting opposite me. She sat very upright, which made her hair seem to float even more in the wind, but there was no wind that could blow open her inner heart. After dinner, Qi Li and Cheng cleared the table while the rest of us sat together and chatted for a bit. During the conversation, I learned that Yezi came to Dali for investment. She would probably be here for about half a year, and then return to Shanghai. Thinking back, this was the difference between her and us. She didn't see Dali as a necessary stop on life's journey. What she wanted was just the most direct harvest. It seems the life pursuits of the wealthy are not always the same. On this point, I prefer Yang Cici's whimsical pursuits. But Yezi was more practical and could better awaken than me, who had been slumbering for too long. That's right. Someone much more outstanding than me was still striving hard, so what reason did I have to continue to wallow? A moment later, Cheng set up a mahjong table for us. Qi Li joined our group. After a few rounds, Yezi kept winning our money. I was no slouch either. Thinking back to my degenerate days in Shanghai, I was also once a mahjong master. So after getting back into form, I won several rounds in a row, making Yang Cici and Qi Li complain that they shouldn't play mahjong with a Sichuanese person like me. But experience isn't everything, so against Yuzi's mahjong talent, I couldn't gain a clear advantage. But because of this common hobby, the distance between us was closed a little. After about 2 rounds of games, my phone on the table suddenly rang. I glanced at it. It was Lao Huang calling again. After signaling for the 3 of them to wait, I took my phone downstairs. Yang Cece wasn't suspicious at all, just urging me to hurry up and not to waste her time to win back her money. I went out to the courtyard before answering Lao Huang's call. He still had that impatient tone. "Mi Chao, the thing I asked you to do, have you been paying attention to it?" I replied with annoyance. "You even brought my father into this to pressure me. How could I dare not pay attention?" Lao Huang laughed awkwardly. "I know this is quite difficult for you, but I'm also worried that a long night brings many dreams. So I've discussed it with Cece's parents, and we're preparing to come to Dali earlier to persuade her to go abroad." "How much earlier? Are you sure you can contact her?" "Definitely. Before I answered your call, we were sitting at the same mahjong table." Lao Huang breathed a sigh of relief. "Then I'll book a flight to Dali for tomorrow and try to arrive before noon." I was stunned for a moment. "All right, so how will we meet tomorrow?" Lao Huang thought for a moment. "When I get off the plane, I'll book a table at a restaurant here. Then you can figure out a way to bring her there." "You mean trick her into going there?" Lao Huang was a bit displeased. "Are you still acting indignant? Aren't we doing this for her own good? You tell me. She's a young girl, with such good family conditions. Instead of going abroad to improve herself while she's young, she runs off to Dali to fool around with a bunch of unambitious deadbeats. What kind of future will she have then? If word of this gets out, it won't be good for her reputation. You're afraid that if she does this, she won't be worthy of your son later on." Lao Huang was choked up by my words. It took him a while to say, "Mikao, let me give you a piece of advice. When you're young, you must do the things you ought to do. Look now, any ambitious young person who isn't running to Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, you guys just hole up in a place like Dali. Besides having fun and losing ambition, it's of no help to your life at all." This time, I didn't rebut Lao Huang's words. I just remembered the 2 brothers I had just met at the inn earlier, Tai Nan and Ma Jidao. One was dissolute, one was dejected. They didn't seem to have any spirit of positive striving. This made me a little suspicious. Were they ultimately rotten, or had they transcended ordinary life to enter a new realm? In my silence, Lao Huang spoke again. "I won't say any more to you. Tomorrow you bring Cece to the restaurant, and your mission will be complete. I won't let you help for free either. The matter I mentioned to you before, I've always kept it in mind, helping you run errands. If you agree, then pack your things and come back to Shanghai with me. I've still kept the product manager position for you. As for which path to choose, you can weigh it yourself." This time it was me who let out a heavy sigh. After a long silence, I finally replied, "This kind of deceptive matter that goes against conscience falling upon me, I feel very uncomfortable. But you don't need to talk to me about any kind of reward. If there's a reward, the nature of this matter will become extremely vulgar. I just ask you to help me with one thing. If my father contacts you again in the future, please help me cover it up a bit. Just say I'm living very well in Shanghai, and my work is going smoothly." After ending the call with Lao Huang, I returned to the mahjong table. But my heart was a little choked up, so much so that I couldn't look directly at the still unsuspecting young Cece. I don't need to make excuses for myself. What I'm about to do tomorrow is toying with her. But it seems that at some point, she has genuinely treated me well. The wooden puppet she gave me this afternoon to cheer me up is still in my pocket. I didn't sit down again, so everyone's eyes focused on me. I replied, "It's getting late, how about we call it a day?" Young Cece gave me a dissatisfied look. "We've only played 2 rounds, you want to leave already?" "Fine, if you want to leave, give me back the money you just won. We weren't playing for high stakes, it was only a dozen or so you won. Making you give it back to me is to remind you to have some card-playing etiquette in the future. You tell me, was it easy for us from all over the country to gather at one mahjong table? You're the one who loves to ruin fate the most." I looked at her, at a loss for words, but a feeling of guilt welled up inside me, so much so that I didn't know what to say at this moment, to ease the awkward atmosphere. But my silence triggered Yang Cece's emotions. Without caring about right or wrong, she swept all my winnings from the table and stuffed them into her handbag. Then she looked at me aggressively. I could only respond with an awkward smile, and this time the person who stepped in to mediate was Ye Ji. After checking the time, she said to me and Yang Cece, "It's late, let's call it a day. We can meet up another time." Yang Cece's expression softened. She took the initiative to pick up her handbag and then thanked Cheng and Chi Li, who had cooked for us. At the same time, Ye Ji paid Chi Li for the meal. Leaving Cheng and Chi Li's small farmhouse courtyard, Ye Ji took her car keys out of her bag. Her G-Wagon was parked in front of a nearby residence house. She looked at me, seeming to hesitate for a moment, but didn't say anything. In the end, she only said to young Cece a few polite words and then walked towards her car. It was only then that I remembered, this evening, the time we spent together wasn't short. But as a man, I forgot to take the initiative to ask for her contact information to show some class. But just as I was about to do so, she had already driven along the road by Airhigh Lake, heading towards an unknown destination. After being dazed for a moment, I lit a cigarette and then leisurely said to young Cece, who was standing to the side, texting someone, "Give me back the mahjong money from earlier. In your dreams, once I've snatched it, it's mine." I pretended to look at a stray dog that was walking past us. Young Cece unconsciously followed my gaze, and in that moment she was distracted. I swiftly snatched the handbag from her and took every last cent from inside. Yang Cece was furious, kicking me while scolding, Have you no shame? Can't you have a little shame? Especially shameless, I said while holding up the money I had just snatched. Yang Cece chased after me, baring her fangs and claws. An accidental touch, the cigarette ash scattered and fell, like a gray snow under the streetlight. Just as my inner heart was also a bleak gray at this moment. Because while I was joking around with her, I was also calculating how exactly to trick her into going to the restaurant Lao Huang had booked tomorrow noon. And after tomorrow, there probably won't be anyone named Young Cece and Dali anymore.